We all know that Pogacar is very strong. He's in good shape. He absolutely wants to try to win this race. I think it's going to be for him the most difficult race to win.
Hi, I'm Spencer Martin, along with Johan Bruyneel, and this is Outcomes. Outcomes is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be considered financial advice. Please gamble responsibly, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, seek help from a professional resource. Hosts and guests may have financial interest in the bets discussed. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Hey everybody, welcome back to Outcomes. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan Bruyneel. We are predicting the 2025 Milano-Sanremo one-day race, the first one-day monument of the year, 289 kilometers. It's getting shorter, Johan, every year. They're shrinking Milan-Sanremo on us. But before we get into predictions, who Johan thinks is going to win, how it's going to play out, I want to talk about today's sponsor, which is Ridge Wallet. Are you still carrying around the same bulky, overstuffed, and let's be honest, crusty leather wallet your grandfather had? It's time for an upgrade. Meet Ridge Wallet, the sleek, minimalistic wallet that's changing the game. Ridge wallets are extremely thin, yet can securely hold up to 12 cards plus cash. That's a lot of cards without adding unnecessary bulk. They're made from premium, high-performance materials like carbon fiber, titanium, and stainless steel. Just like bikes, you can get a stainless steel wallet and then have a superiority complex about it. Ridge wallets are built to last. In fact, they come with a lifetime warranty, meaning this is the last wallet you ever need to buy. I actually have one right here in a cool orange color. It's very thin. I almost had a meltdown. I was at a wedding recently out of town. I realized my wallet was way too big. I don't know. I was trying to sit down. I had the Costanza fold every time I put it in my pocket. I was leaned over. I was having back problems. The flights, oh man, you don't want to put it in your backpack because, what if someone steals it out of your backpack? So you got to keep it in your back pocket. And that's why Ridge Wallet's super compressed design is perfect for having a slimmer wallet that looks better and is more comfortable and better for your health. And Ridge Wallet, this is crazy. I did not know about this until a few days ago. Comes with RFID blocking technology to protect you from digital pickpockets. That's right. Scammers can now scan your pockets and steal your credit card info wirelessly. So Ridge has you covered. This is important. If you're in the tube packed tight, anyone can just be going up using that tap technology to steal your credit card info. And I guess Ridge Wallet, it's like a little mini Faraday cage, so no one can pull that info from your wallet. I'm very into this. I found out about this a few days ago. Now I'm carrying everything in my Ridge Wallet because I do not want my information stolen. And right now, Ridge is having their once a year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/moveplus. That's spelled out MOVEPLUS. ridge.com/moveplus and see their biggest sale event of the year. 40% off is a lot. This is going on the theme of insane discounts we've had from some of these sponsors. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. So please support our show and tell them we sent you. And remember, ridge.com/moveplus. I can't recommend this enough. All right, back to Milan-Sanremo. Johan, just a little bit of background information if people don't know about this. 300-ish K long, longest race of the year. What's the classic thing is longest, easiest race to ride, hardest to win because the course isn't that tough. There's a big kind of mild, I guess, summit in the middle of the race that frankly, I've never even turned the race on early enough to see it. And then you kind of leave Milan, you go down to the coast once you're over that pass. And then they have, these classic climbs along the Ligurian coast into Sanremo, which is close to the border with France by Monaco. The two big climbs are the Cipressa, which is the second to last one, which is longer. It's the longer of the two. And then the Poggio, the final one. And then you have this really tricky descent down to, it's like 2 or 3 kilometers of down to flat road in town into the finish line. They call it the Sprinters Classic. It's not really the Sprinters Classic anymore. It's really like the late attackers classic. But I'll list off the favorites on Unibet, and then we'll get your take on who's going to win. Tadej Pogačar, the favorite at plus 250. Mathieu van der Poel, plus 350. The world has gone crazy with Van der Poel that much further behind Pogačar. Mads Pedersen, plus 500. Jasper Philipsen, plus 700. Filippo Ganna, plus 800. Jonathan Milan, plus 1,400. Tom Pidcock, plus 1,400. Michael Matthews, plus 2,500. Olaf Koy, plus 3,300. Matej Mohoric, who won this race recently, plus 3,300. That is wild, and it goes on and on. But Johan, how's this going to play out? Sprint, small group, solo, and who's going to win?
Yeah, well, it's as you say, Spencer. It is the easiest monument to ride. Super difficult to win. If it's, what is it, 289 kilometers? You say?
Yeah, 289 officially this year.
Take into account the neutral, it's probably 300.
Yeah, they probably have like a 30-minute neutral zone.
Every rider who has done Milan-Sanremo has this vision of, like you race full gas for an hour, like super, super fast for the first breakaway. And then you see all of a sudden a sign, 250 kilometers to the finish. That's not really good for the for the head. But usually it's also, I think it's the most predictable development until recently, when we have a rider like Tadej Pogačar in the race. He basically breaks all the traditional cycling laws or traditions, but still. We all know that Pogacar is very strong. He's in good shape. He absolutely wants to try to win this race. I think it's going to be for him the most difficult race to win. Although Paris-Roubaix may also not be easy for him to win, as long as a guy like Van der Poel and Pipo Ghana and Van Aert are on the top of this game. There's no climbs in Paris-Roubaix, so that's why it's going to be difficult. But I agree he's the favorite because of his status, right? Because of his pedigree, and he will try. We don't know exactly if he's going to try to go on the Cipressa or on the Poggio. From the Cipressa to the finish, it's quite far, especially because these climbs you can get away, but you can't get a lot of advantage. So I'm going to pick Mathieu van der Poel to win. Because Van der Poel can win in a lot of different scenarios. He already won Milan-Sanremo solo, riding away from Pogacar and the other favorites. He was there last year and basically helped Jasper Philipsen to win the race. But if it's a selection of, let's say, the 3, 4, 5 big favorites, whether that's Van der Poel, Ghana, Pidcock, Pedersen, and Pogacar, for example, Van der Poel's going to be there. And he can win a sprint also against all these guys. So that's why I prefer Van der Poel also, based on what I've seen in Tirreno Adriatico. He did Tirreno Adriatico, tested him a few times, didn't win a stage, but, he looked really good. And I've heard that he's in really good shape, that he's really, really, really in top shape. And, he's not going to race that much in the spring. He only does a few one-day races. This is his first big goal of the season. And so, yeah, plus 350. I think that's a good number for Van der Poel. So he's my favorite to win the race.
It's actually crazy. He's plus 350. I agree with you. I think he's the best rider for the race. Like, if you just laid out everyone's attributes, he would be the most perfectly built for this, because he can sprint, he can climb, he can win out of a small group, he can win solo. But last year it was Pogacar plus 250, Van der Poel plus 250. So it's interesting to me. He's dropped down to plus 350. To me, this is a bit of Pogacar fever. Everyone a year later is like, well, this guy's the best rider in the world, which he is. He's going to win. But it's like, well, what happened to Van der Poel? Like, he looked pretty good at Tirreno. He's looked pretty good at all his races this year. Why is he dropped down? So just mathematically and logically, I do think that's the smart pick, because you're getting a favorite for cheaper than you would get Pogacar. But since you picked Van der Poel, and because the guy you normally think is going to win Sanremo doesn't normally win Sanremo, I'm going to go Pogacar. Also, we have got some tailwinds coming, allegedly. Rain, maybe rain, but it's like 25% chance, but tailwinds along that final coast, that could give Pogacar enough, because when it's tailwind, you would think like, oh, it's easier to go up the climbs. No, it's harder, because it gives the advantage to the person that's just a better climber. Like, everything is basically amplified. So if you're a faster climber, you can't really draft on that person. They're going to ride away. And the stretch there's a flat stretch, like 16K between the Cipressa and the Poggio. It'd be really hard to stay away normally, and it still is not going to be easy. But in my scenario, UAE makes the race really hard on like as early as the Turchino. How do you say that climb, Johan? They make it hard there. They go all out in the Cipressa. Last year, there was like this. They weren't really dialed in. It was trying to make it hard.
They were wrongly positioned, and then Del Toro had to do a lot of work too early. So basically, Pogacar was only left with Tim Wellens at the end.
And he had to tell him to slow down. Remember, he's like, "This isn't working, Tim. Like, let's just take this to the Poggio." Like they gave up by the top of the Cipressa, but because he has a math problem here. Here's some numbers for you. I think he's done the Poggio about as hard as anyone can do it. Like him and Ghana are tied for the Strava KOM 5:31. I think Pogacar technically did it. He got over the line first, so maybe he was further behind. But like my calculator says, for Pogacar to have done this time on the Poggio, and this is like half a minute faster than Nibali when he soloed in 2018. Remember when he rode away from everybody? You're like, well, why doesn't Pogacar just do that? Well, he's going half a minute faster than Nibali was on that climb, and he's still not getting clear. And he's putting out roughly like 590 watts, like 9 watts per kilo for 5.5 minutes. Ghana, because he's heavier, only has to put out like 7.8 watts per kilo to keep up with him. That's not even accounting for like Ghana's going to sit on the wheels. He's not going to be attacking. Pogacar is going to be attacking. It's just, I think it's going to be too hard for him to get away on the final climb. It's only 3.7K long at around like 3.5% gradient. Like Van der Poel and Ghana can stay with him on that climb. Probably Mads Pedersen too, with the fitness he has right now. I think he's got to go Cipressa. I think he's got to, if he's away, what is the group doing? Are they arguing? They're probably not all working together in harmony. Maybe they're arguing. Maybe they've whittled it down so much that they don't have teammates.
Well, yeah,
I think that's the only way.
That's the thing. If Pogacar gets away on the Cipressa, well, first of all, we have to see if there's nobody in front yet. I mean, I would assume there's no UAE in front. No teams will let that happen because that's basically saying, okay, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We set the guy in front. But if Pogacar gets away on the Cipressa, that's going to mean that it's going to have been already really hard on the Cipressa, and there's not going to be many guys together. And the time between the Cipressa and the Poggio, 16K, to get back together and organized, if it's tailwind, that's his chance. I still think it's extremely difficult because I repeat, these climbs are not that hard. And the level is extremely high of the top favorites. But, if it's tailwind, this is the year. This is the year that it could happen. So we'll see. We'll see. I would love to see it. I know one guy who won the Milan-Sanremo. He got away on the Cipressa, with a few guys, then rode full gas in the valley, got caught just before the Poggio, and then got away again on the Poggio with a little group and won in the sprint. It was Paolo Bettini when he won Milan-Sanremo. I think he was world champion then, if I'm not mistaken, because he was 2 times world champion in a row. But that was something extraordinary. Normally, if you really put a big dig on the Cipressa and then you spend all that energy in the valley between the Cipressa and the Poggio, it's difficult to win still. But if there's one guy who can do it, it's Pogacar.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Bettini example, because let's imagine he attacks on the Cipressa, doesn't get away clean. Let's say Van der Poel's with him, Pedersen's with him, Ghana's with him, Pidcock's with him. Those guys are probably going to work with him, right? They're not going to want faster riders to come back. My question is, would that then, if he can isolate, it's like in basketball now, the big thing is that you isolate someone if you're a quicker rider or quicker player and you can get around them. If he can isolate those guys on the Poggio, could he then drop them if they don't have the big group to hide in? Like maybe that's another possibility, that the Cipressa is the first step and then he drops them on the Poggio.
Yeah, for sure. But you know what? I mean, listen, these guys are not stupid. Let's say these 5 guys get away, right, on the Cipressa. There's probably going to be somebody else because there's other guys who are good climbers. But still, Pogacar is not going to have any teammates either with him, because they're not going to come back if it's the favorites already. And if this little group decides to work together, the big weight of the breakaway is going to be on Pogacar, because they all know that he's going to attack them again on the Poggio. So Pogacar needs to go close to full, and the other guys are going to go 60, 70%. So
I feel like we always think this though, and then when the rubber hits the road, you're like, what are they doing? Like, why are they? I mean, because partly it's good, it's confidence. Van der Poel might be thinking like, this idiot is going to pull me to a sprint finish, and he's not going to drop me on the Poggio, so I'm not going to let this chance go.
Yeah. Well, usually, I mean, and then if that would be the case, that a select group gets at the bottom of the Poggio, normally the speed is not going to be as high as if it was a peloton coming and then the big guys going away from the peloton on the Poggio. It's going to be a bit slower. So listen, I don't know. If there's one guy who can do something which is not written in the traditional cycling books in a race like Milan-Sanremo, it's Tadej Pogačar.
Do you know the average speed on the Poggio last year? This blew my mind. This is uphill.
Yeah. 38, 39?
Yeah, 39.1 k an hour. Yeah. So, wow. Just imagine, it's hard to imagine being able to. I mean, my 4-year-old son did point out, well, Van der Poel attacked at the very end of the Poggio in 2003 and got away. Why doesn't Pogacar try that? But 2023. Yeah, sorry. But I guess Pogacar's not as big, right? So he probably doesn't have the explosive power, quite the explosive power that Van der Poel has. And Van der Poel was in the wheels that whole climb.
Yeah.
So it's a tough race. So one thing too we should talk about that helps Van der Poel, oddly, is his teammate and defending champion Jasper Philipsen crashed on was that yesterday? Day before yesterday, on Wednesday. Yes. He's going to race, but for a guy like that, everything has to go perfect for him to get over. If you rewatch last year, he was just like last man on the Poggio in that group, dangling, it all falls into place. So if you are at all suffering, I don't think he makes it over, but that means Van der Poel can just focus on winning, which helps. If you're betting on him, helps you a lot, because I can't imagine having him last year and then watching him lead his teammate out. Like, what are you doing, man? I have money. I might have had money on him. I think that was me I'm describing. But if it's not Pogacar, it's not Van der Poel, there's a lot of strong riders here, like Mads Pedersen, Ghana, Milan. Do you think anyone else has a chance?
I'm going to pick Tom Pidcock as my second choice. I think he's plus 1,400, no?
That's plus 1,400, and this is probably one of the better races for him.
That's pretty good. I think, normally if Pidcock is the way he has been riding until now, there's no way he's getting dropped on the Poggio. And let's not forget, man, he is probably the best guy downhill in the world. Okay, on a descent like the Poggio, you could argue, okay, Van der Poel is there, is equal. Ghana is equal. Pogacar is not bad either in downhills. But man, Pidcock has this extra thingy. Plus, I also think that Pidcock, if it's a selection of the 4 or 5 guys we think, could take advantage of the supervision between the big guys and maybe sneak away at the end. That's also a possibility. And he's not slow either. He can sprint.
No, he's a fast sprinter.
So he's my second choice, especially because of the plus 1,400.
Yeah, that's a really good price. Like, just to give you to illustrate, if you bet $10 on him at those odds, you'd win 150. That would be your payout. So if we're talking about a rider, he's probably the best descender. He's a good sprinter. He's not going to get dropped in the climb. That's a no-brainer, in my opinion, to pick him. If you go back, like, think about Stuyven in 2021. He would not have been your favorite. He attacks right off the descent. Like, it's not impossible to imagine Pidcock doing that. And then it puts everyone else in a bit of a bind, because what are you going to do? Like, is Van der Poel going to lead out Pogacar to chase down Pidcock? Probably doesn't want to do that. It's kind of like, who's going to be the first to attack? This is a long way for me to say, and I've already bet on this person. I bet on him probably a week ago. Filippo Ganna, plus 800. probably won't get dropped in the climbs. I mean, we saw him in some of his best climbing form last weekend.
I think
he makes it.
He's stronger than ever. He was already super strong in the last 2 editions of Milan-Sanremo, and I think he's stronger than then. So logically, I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, if 2 years ago, I clocked him putting out 650 watts for 5.5 minutes to get over that final climb. That's not too bad. And he's probably stronger now, as you say. And if he can attack, the nice thing about Ghana to picking him, if he attacks, obviously he's very strong. He could stay away. And who's going to chase him? If those guys don't have teammates, like it's game over.
I'm thinking more than about an attack in the final 3K.
Yeah, like in the town where I guess Mohoric attacked before, but like Stuyven, where he attacks in town and holds him off. But that's fertile ground.
Just at the end, Stuyven attacked just at the end in the last 500 meters of the downhill. But usually it's okay, they give it full gas on the Poggio, then it's full concentration. The downhill of the Poggio is hard. It takes a lot of energy. Also, you're not cruising, you're not like resting or recovering because you're full gas. And then you get onto the last 3-4K towards the Via Roma, and there sometimes there's hesitations, and I can perfectly see a scenario where Ghana goes. He gets 20, 30 meters and it's game over.
It's kind of like last year where Mathieu Sobrero attacked in the town, but you don't remember it because Van der Poel pulverized him. But if Van der Poel wasn't there with the teammate, maybe that works. I mean, do you see on that note, kind of the key to winning if you're a sprinter is getting over the Poggio with the teammate who can pull attack back? Because the problem is if you're Jonathan Milan and you make it over in the front group, what's everyone going to do? They're not going to take you to the sprint. They're going to attack you. And then who do you have to pull that back? Do you see any team getting more than one rider over that climb?
Well, I mean, if Milan makes it, Pedersen has for sure made it.
So that'd be that'd be the team right there then.
Yeah. And maybe someone else, I don't know. But the thing is, we're now, making predictions and stuff. But if you really look on top of the Poggio, there's probably 20, 25 riders within 15, 20 seconds. So it's just a matter of what happens afterwards. And if it can buck, that's how Philipsen won last year, right?
Yeah. He was probably like 8 or 9 back. But yeah, it kind of congeals up at the bottom. If I'm remembering correctly, it stalled a little bit because Pogacar goes over first. Van der Poel catches him, and then Pidcock bridged up to them on the descent. And then once it was those three, kind of the pace kind of came off because Van der Poel knows his teammates coming behind. So I agree that Little Trek is probably the team most likely to have 2 riders in there. There's a bet you can bet on which team is going to win. This is on Unibet. Little Trek's at plus 400. Seems appealing, but maybe you just want to bet on Pedersen at plus 500 and Milan at plus 1400 if you really liked that, because Milan is, I mean, which one of the two do you think is more likely to win, Johan? Probably.
For Milan, I mean, listen, he's going to be close, but and also, Spencer, although Milan right now is probably one of the 2-3 fastest riders in the world, after 300K, it's not the same thing.
That's a good point.
This is not going to be a bunch sprint. This is a sprint between, dying guys who are creeping to the finish. It's completely different.
I mean, you bring up a good point. There's especially this happened more like a decade ago. The weird sprint, I call it, like Matt Goss in 2011. Who would have saw that coming? And even Simon Garrett,
Arnaud Demar, that was a weird addition. I have mixed feelings about that addition. Do you think he still has the KOM on the Cipressa?
He must, right? Or I mean, it probably got flagged by Strava saying this is not possible to do.
No, there was a whole controversy about it. I mean, he uploaded it. I guess some of these guys. I mean, Strava uploads automatically, right, when it syncs with your device.
Yeah,
and then he took it down straight away, like within the hour after the race, he took it down because the time on Cipressa was not logical. I mean, he was dropped, and had the fastest time on the Cipressa. So obviously he was hanging on the car.
Which is bad. I don't think that should be and pro cycling is this weird thing where like, yeah,
he did win Milan-Sanremo. That's amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, the most amazing one is Jared Chalik, 2013, over Sagan and Cancellara. Like, that's not one you would have guessed beforehand. And that's why this is a really tricky race to predict, because you could get to that finish. We could be sitting there tomorrow, head in hands, thinking, how the heck did Jonathan Navarez just win Milan-Sanremo? I mean, it's a weird sprint.
Not with these riders, Spencer. There's 3, 4, 5 guys who are kind of, really dominant, and these scenarios are more unlikely, I think.
What if like Axel Zingel wins? That's not even how we're in. This is not even helpful. But the rest of these I think are a little bit like UAE to win. I don't think that's even worthwhile. It's plus 220. You might as well just bet on Pogacar. Alpecin de Koenigs plus 275. You might as well just bet on Van der Poel, because what other Alpecin riders is going to win? But the last thing I wanted to ask you, Johan, we were doing this last year, so I think this is a really interesting one. This is the margin between first and second. So essentially, this is the question: is it solo or not solo? Less than a second, which is a sprint, is minus 284. 1 second or more plus 200.
I think it's a sprint.
Interesting. I mean, the tricky thing about that 1 second or more is, like, remember Vincenzo Nibali? That was not technically a solo win because he's counted on the same time as everybody else. Yeah. So you could have a scenario like that.
Stuyven was the same. Stuyven was on, and then it looked like he won in the sprint,
So you could think you've won that, and then you haven't won that. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I guess for interest's sake, I would say sure, 1 second or more, but this is one of the harder ones of the year. I don't really have much else to add. Van der Poel's probably the safe pick. I don't have a really logical reason for doing so, but Pogacar, I think he will win this race once in his life. The question then you're then asking yourself, is this the year that he does it?
Well, his chances are becoming bigger and bigger because he's getting better and better. And he now gets to know how to race these races. His team gets stronger and stronger. So, if he doesn't win this year, it's also possible he never wins it. That's why I think, this. Okay, obviously it's different times, right? But didn't Eric Zabel win this race 4 times?
4 times.
Yeah, and Eddie Merckx won this 7 times, not being a sprinter. Okay, different era, But it was also the sprinters' race back then. And
the Zabel one is still crazy. I mean, it's hard to imagine a modern sprinter winning it that much.
Yeah. Usually, almost all sprinters, like the sprinters who can get over the point, they won it once. Like Cipollini won it once, Cavendish won it once. Bonin, for example, never managed to win it, and he was like the ideal prototype of the guy, like the sprinter plus a guy. He never won it.
That's a good point.
Did Sagan win it?
He never won it, right?
Never won it. See,
I don't think he ever won it. Hold on. Oh my!
He lost to. I think he lost to Alaphilippe.
No. So the Chalik year, bike throw, and then the craziest edition, 2017. Remember, it was Kwiatkowski, Sagan, and Alaphilippe with their touching shoulders on the bike throw, and Kwiatkowski won that one. Yeah, but he never won it. Peter Sagan, perfect rider for this race.
Mm-hmm.
So good luck betting everybody. Our wild cards are Filippo Ganna, me plus 800, and then I think this is probably the cheapest rider on here relative to how good they are. Tom Pidcock plus 1,400. That's the craziest odds to me.
He's having a great start of the season. He's in great shape. I think Pidcock has the qualities to. He's not going to get dropped on the Poggio, I think, and then either gets away in the downhill or takes advantage of the control between the other guys, or even in the sprint. I mean, if you look. Sagan, Alaphilippe, and Kwiatkowski. Who would have thought Kwiatkowski would win? And
actually, they kind of remind me of each other at the moment. Those two riders, like because Kwiatkowski was, I mean, he still is probably fast, but he was fast back then and not very big. So he's not going to get dropped in these climbs. And yeah, but you get weird things. Just like bank on yourself at the end of this race and you can win it in a sprint. I mean, even like Alaphilippe in 2019 over Oliver Naesen. And was that solo? Was that out of a group?
I think it was
been out of a group.
I think it was solo.
Hold on. I'll tell us. This sprint of small group.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
Crazy. So yeah, that goes to show you like, and I mean, maybe there's something to be said for being smaller, that there's less fatigue on these climbs, like building up over the course of the day. So you're fresher at the end. But here's the last question. What about Pogacar? What if he doesn't do anything, Johan? What if he sits in the group and just sprints? Like, could he win that way?
No, then there's because if Pogacar doesn't make it hard, there's gonna be
yeah, you're right. No one's gonna be like, let's crank the pace up here.
They're making it that normally wouldn't make it.
You're right. Yeah. If Pogacar's team doesn't make it hard, this might be the slowest edition ever of Milan-Sanremo.
Well,
because
if it's tailwind and something, I mean, maybe not. We'll see. I mean, there's also light chance of rain, so let's see what happens. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Yeah, this is I think it used to be a boring race, but because it's almost like Pogacar and Van der Poel have gotten so good, if the race is any harder, it's boring. But now it's like everyone has a chance. So it should be a great. It's on. If you're listening in the US, it's on Max, the streaming service. It starts at like 3 a.m. Mountain Time, so 5 a.m. Eastern Time. But you really just need to watch the last 45 minutes. Like that's where all the action is, I think. So, anything else to add before we go, Johan?
That's it. Can't wait for tomorrow. First monument of the season.
Yeah, this is when the real season starts.
Yeah.
And we'll be off from here. Thanks so much. Okay. And you'll be back on with Lance and George tomorrow, right after the stage for the move.
Exactly.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay, thanks. Bye.